On the morning of May 2, 1990, a man turned into a small alley in the city of London. He was 58 years old. His name was John Goddard, and he was carrying almost 300 million pounds in his briefcase. Not in cash, not in gold, just paper. 30 seconds later, it was gone. The alley was called Nicholas Lane. For a brief moment, it became the most expensive place on Earth. John Goddard was a financial messenger. In 1990, banks still moved money the old way. Men like Goddard walked between offices carrying important papers called bearer bonds. Whoever held these papers owned them. No names, no records. If you lost them, they were gone. Banks trusted routine. They trusted tradition. They trusted that no one would dare attack a messenger in broad daylight. They were wrong. As Goddard walked through the alley, a man stepped in front of him. He pulled out a knife and pressed it to Goddard's throat. "Give me the case." Goddard did. The attacker ran into the crowd and disappeared. By the time police arrived, the damage was already done. Inside the briefcase were 301 bearer bonds worth £291.9 million. Today, that would be close to $1 billion. Within an hour, the Bank of England sent out an emergency warning. Every bank was told the serial numbers of the stolen bonds. From that moment on, the bonds became untouchable. They still existed, but no legal bank would accept them. The thieves had stolen the paper, but they had burned the money. The man who carried out the attack was Patrick "Little Pat" Thomas. He was a small-time criminal from South London. Not a mastermind, just the muscle. He was never meant to keep the bonds. Behind him were men who understood money and crime. One of them was Keith Cheeseman. Cheeseman looked respectable. He wore suits, he spoke like a businessman. But behind the scenes, he worked with criminals. His job was simple to explain, but almost impossible to do. Turn £292 million in stolen bonds into real money. The first plan was Switzerland. Swiss banks were famous for secrecy, but the amount was too large. The story was everywhere. Nobody wanted to touch the bonds, so the gang tried something else. America. Bonds were sent to New York, where a man named Mark Osborne tried to sell them through criminal contacts. What he didn't know was that he was walking into an FBI trap. In a bar in Manhattan, Osborne met a man who claimed to be connected to the mafia. He wasn't. He was an undercover FBI agent. Osborne was arrested. Faced with a long prison sentence, he agreed to talk. He wore a wire. He gave names. He helped the FBI build their case. Then, he disappeared. A few weeks later, Mark Osborne was found dead, shot twice in the head. The message was clear. These bonds were dangerous to hold. As police searched, bonds began appearing in strange places. Miami, hidden inside phone books, on their way to Colombia. Drug cartels were accepting the bonds as payment or security. They didn't care if the bonds were flagged. They only cared that they were valuable and hard to trace. Some were linked to Pablo Escobar's network. Others turned up at Heathrow Airport, carried by men connected to the Irish Republican Army. What started as a street mugging had turned into a global criminal problem. Back in London, police believed the real boss was a man named Ray Ketteridge. Large amounts of the stolen bonds were traced back to his group, but the case fell apart. Charges were dropped. No clear explanation. And then the people involved started dying. Patrick Thomas, the mugger, was shot dead outside his home in December 1991. The man who took the risk was silenced. In the end, police recovered 399 of the 301 stolen bonds. 2 were never found. Today, they're worthless. They expired long ago, but their mystery remains. Almost no one made money from the robbery. What they got, instead, was prison, fear, and death. But the robbery changed banking forever. Banks stopped trusting paper. Messengers disappeared. Digital systems replaced briefcases. By 2003, the Bank of England stopped issuing bearer bonds completely. Nicholas Lane is still there today. Just a quiet alley. But for one morning in 1990, it was the center of the financial world. place where an old system failed and paid the price.